Nous voilà de retour pour cette deuxième session.
Welcome back. We are going to talk about social TV. First of all, bear in mind that there is a workshop entitled From Producer to Producer, How to Create a Transmedia Program. This is staged by Ian Jean, who's one of the leading figures in cross-media, and we are very pleased that he's visiting us in Paris. The workshop is in English. I'm very pleased to welcome our panelists for this social TV debate, which is a vital debate today. They will come on the stage and I will introduce them to you very briefly. As we were designing this debate, we thought that social TV is probably the first experience of this new generation TV that all of us can experience without having any specific device. And we're very happy of welcoming this very diverse panel. First of all, Fabienne Fourquet is Director of Digital Content at Canal+. Lionel Abbo is Development Director at Shine France. Stéphane Gaultier is co-founder of Virdual. And Maziar Najim is founder of So Maisie, which come from England and is one of the leading figures for social TV in the UK. Gilles Peset is going to moderate the debate. Thank you very much. You're a consultant manager at NPA. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. To start with the discussion, we saw during the previous debate how important social TV has become. Social TV has become one of the leading trends today and one of the leading ways of designing and considering TV and new viewers' experiences. One point is, in my opinion, very striking. As we mentioned social TV 2 years ago, that was rather easy to define. It was only this concept of viewers using the available social networks and therefore commenting on TV programs on a second screen. And they had this multitask attitude, watching TV, commenting on the internet and interacting with the program. We have the feeling that the scope is getting broader and broader, and that we nowadays have several issues combined together. First of all, interactive program. You're going to tell us about your Virdual experiences. Then the other issue is a cross-media item. How can we reach multiple experiences on several platforms and related to the TV program? Then, third issue, the fan communities, fan groups that are aggregating and being worked into the social TV issue. We might start with you, Lionel Abbo. You could tell us about Shine's experience with the program The Voice and the very highly developed use of a digital platform in parallel to the TV broadcast. Yes, of course. The social strategy for The Voice was present at the very onset and during the very first meeting when we were discussing this program with the channel TF1, we tried to convince them that it was absolutely necessary to get a program combining a very strong presence over the social network and a broadcast circulation. To this, we had several arguments, we had several reasons. First, it is necessary to show to the audience and the viewers that the voice was a different concept that was distinct to the existing programs, and that in this program, this was not the same as all the existing Nouvelle Star, Star Academy, and so on. So it was not about displaying new trailers, but really addressing the major target, which were the younger generations on social networks. Very important to us was that all you can see on the program should be very, very active on the social networks. This includes producers, techniques. So on Saturday evening, we had a genuine debate and exchange between the coaches and between the artists that were on this program. The viewers then had the opportunity to ask questions, and the coaches had the opportunity to bring in their added view on the concrete and practical following. From the very beginning, we wished the web and the internet and all the experiences in social networks to be embodied. So we had Nikos and Virginie de Closade, but also other persons who have been really working on the internet and had, so as to say, a 2.0 speech, which means that they were not talking to the TV viewers. They were not talking to the internet users as they would have been to TV viewers. They had very animated digital systems that were, of course, not perfect, far from being perfect, but that were good. And they worked on the social networks in order to position the program as a different offering and really not similar to anything that has been seen previously. Question. So as you offered this program to TF1, first of all, you explained to them that it was an innovative approach. Yes, of course. And then we also had a concept that is specific. Okay, nowadays, after 2 weeks of broadcasting, it's easy to say, I know what it is about. It is about coaches and stars and artists, but in the beginning, it was difficult to understand what the basic working of this program was. So we thought that there was a need for explanation. We needed to explain to the viewers what it was about. Okay, so prior to the broadcast program, you carried out this explanation program via social networks. Yes, we thought that we should carry out this work everywhere where those viewers, potential viewers, were on Spotify, on iViews, on Facebook. We tried to use any possible channels and mediums so that we didn't want to attract people and ask them to visit the website dvoice.fr. We wanted to go there where they might be and try to talk to them and to really show them this new item and tell them, check that out, there is a new item that's coming up, and therefore it generated a genuine expectation. And we saw on Twitter, for example, that before the first episode, 2 days before, we had a constant twittering, and we saw that automatically every weekend we were the leading in one of those top-ranking Twitter topics in France. So I do not assume that we got some extra audience through this, but we had the opportunity to reach the audience. Okay, and so you really caught this audience that was not necessarily ready to watching TV in the evening. We have no figures for that, but we know that on the Saturday evening, other programs, our competitors on M6 or other channels were getting lower figures, but the difference was not that huge. So what we saw is that we had a new audience. We had other persons watching our programs on the Saturday evening. So what was your share on social networks? I wish I could say it, but I have to say that for those people aged 18 to 24, they had some audience rates that were really new and that hadn't been existing since the end of The Voice. I think this audience was also attracted to this very strength of social networks. Yeah, so you had this audience that was following the program live on TV. You had this Facebook and digital network where you had those live comments on the program via Twitter or other. You had this live tweet option. Yes. Even during the shooting, Nikos would take his BlackBerry and make a picture anytime he could in order to tweet it. So we know that we have been very lucky that we had such a committed moderator who was very much engaged with social TV. Interestingly enough, we thought that Jennifer, Garot, and the other coaches really played the game, and they either expanded on topics they could not develop during the shooting, or just further explain why they selected or eliminated this or this candidate. So I think that for them it was a way to play in a deeper way their role as a coach, and in a deeper way. So then after broadcast, you had a third step. How did you manage to moderate this and to keep this brand alive, The Voice? Well, we thought that on the internet and on the social networks, it was necessary that we replace the daily programs. The Voice is not a genuine reality TV show. It is different to the other daily reality TV. So we thought that we had to talk about the backstage, about the feelings of those competitors, about their preparation, about their coaching programs with Jennifer and Garot and the other ones. So this entire backstage that was not accessible in the prime time, which was rather focused on competition and music, this backstage story, we would tell it after the live cast. So you had this added content, the broadcast, and could you have the opportunity to develop it on a second screen for a parallel broadcast? Well, for the first season, we've been considering this and watching at existing examples in the United States or in the Netherlands. We found nothing that was relevant enough to be applied to season 1. Now we're working on the second season, season 2, and we are really concerned with this topic and would truly like to be in a position to offer the internet users a parallel and live experience that is of a different nature. We haven't got the good idea right now, but we're still looking for that good idea. So practically you have no dedicated application for The Voice now. No, not now. We have a first idea that might be relevant, but I cannot tell you about this here. And it has anyway to be deepened and worked upon. Considering the topics, if one day you move to developing a The Voice application, then how do you negotiate with the broadcasters towards those issues?
Un système de
Try and convince the channels to enter into a joint operation, project or venture or partnership, which is basically a win-win for both the chain and the channel and the producer. We try and defend our brand. That's our program, of course, and we try and then develop it and to offer and contribute then as much as possible to TV viewers. And to do that, that, we need to be in control. We're not just giving them the keys of the HN house, as it were, or home, and tell them to get on with it. That is not really our full role as a content provider. It depends. This is very much about all TV screens, all tablets, and other media, such as the computer. It's not always easy to cooperate then the different screens, and this is what we do and are seeking to do now. If in the future there is an application, we will cooperate this with TF1. Before we hand over to another panelist on then when you head such a strong program brand which is so successful, how can you then how can you sustain it across seasons, across different types of the year, parts of the year? We are lucky in that this is a strong brand, and that therefore on social networks, we're focused on tours. From this summer, we will be doing season 2 casting, and that will take us through to the broadcast then date. And this is something we've done on 2 programs. Baby Boom, if you recall, that was screened last year, then on TF1, where we had then cameras in a kindergarten, primary school, and also the idea is to then interface this between season 1 and season 2, and this is continuing now through to September this year, where 4 families are being monitored over a 1-year period. Then in the family, the babies then newborn babies then are filmed and monitored, see how the baby grows and how the parents react as well over that 1-year period. Then to see how the family chemistry and the family dynamics develop over that 1-year period from one season to another. And then we're moving into season 2. You talked about the new season's casting or cast. Then will you involve the community in the process? Absolutely, because the first season the cast was quite complicated to put together, to assemble. We didn't, there was no one really aware of or really knew whether this would work or not. Nobody knew what then the claim was. So the coaches need to work on that. This is quite difficult to set up. Now we have put together some major talents. And since the broadcast, there is a major expectation on that cast. So the community now will then be working more closely together and more effectively together. Where After You, The Voice, so where we have the opportunity for or that we are now giving then internet then users to rate then the program and have 30 seconds to do that. This worked very well, very successfully. We had tens of thousands of internet users then who were singing with us, then Adele with Adele. So today then we're going to try and set something up which is going to be even more engaging. Then does Imogen have a reaction? Then do you head and you founded then your advertising business and agency that a bit late. Did you get it? So let's have it once more.
Oui,
So I was saying, I was questioning you and asking for your reaction on cross-media, that structure on the voice program. You come from the advertising world, and you set up Somazy, an agency that you could perhaps present to us. We're not very familiar with it in France. It's specialized consultancy, specialized in social networks, but you don't only work with broadcasters or producers only, sir, do you?
No, not at all. I basically I got into the TV environment when a few years ago I ended up working at Sky Television, and at Sky my job was to make sure that we hear and we listen to what our customers, prospects are talking about, and trying to bring that data and that thinking into not only products, but also for TV shows. Most of my work at this company was educating my colleagues about what is actually happening around us when it comes to social media. We're talking about a huge amount of people who are engaging, talking, and sharing. So culturally, we all have matured. There were skeptics who said, I don't want to update my status in Facebook. I don't want to go to Twitter because you only talk about if you had coffee. But recently, over many years, we've noticed that people are happy to share, and they would like to do that. They're actually hungry for it. So then you started looking at, okay, there are obviously TV shows, there is content, and so on. I thought it was a fantastic example. One wake-up call for me and Sky was the American TV show Lost. The last episode of Lost had about 1 million tweets on Twitter, and nobody from Sky was involved in that conversation. I reached out to sales and acquisition, no. Marketing, no. Content side, no. And then you start building a business case of, look, there are all these conversations. I appreciate you look at traditional marketing, you know, all that. As it was mentioned, please come to the website, and that's the only place you need to look at. What is important for you to be where the conversations are happening. Most of us do have mobiles, most of us do have, you know, iPads or laptops and so on. And it just started people engaging. Nobody told them, you know, this is what you're going to do. Completely. You're going to go on. They just started. And here you have a phenomenon opportunity. As you mentioned, I've worked with Sky on these, with content. I worked with British Forces Broadcasting, Sky Italy, Star TV, and so on. And it was not only a matter of being where you are, but how do you keep the engagement going and keep the engagement high? So that's kind of like the background to what I do now, to my consultancy, where I work with, let's say, BBC Worldwide, with, you know, over 30 million fans around the world. But what else do you need in order to make sure that these guys are coming back and talking to you? So one of the clients of mine has over 10 million fans on Facebook. If you're talking about, if you look at Facebook measurement, it says 300,000 are talking to you. So 10 million, 300,000, that's pretty low engagement. It was mentioned that some of the presenters, they were taking photos, etc. It needs to be part of the program right at the beginning, and it needs to be an integrated approach in order to create a much better experience for the user. Another angle of what I do is, okay, you have the fans, you have the engagement. Try to look at social media from a multidiscipline point of view, because there's a heck of a lot of insight, real-time insight that is coming from your fans, prospects, etc. And what do you need to do in order to listen to it, and how do you take that feedback back into your work and learning lessons, etc. So that's pretty much so amazing.
Okay. And do you think this feedback can change the narration itself?
I believe it can have an impact on many aspects of, let's say, the content or TV shows, etc. There's two elements into it. So one, for example, at Sky, when we looked at the UK election, Sky News, and we're going to cover it. So you're talking about reputation of a TV channel that they're trying to build, news, etc. And it basically means you're telling the TV channel to open up, to lose control, but at the same time there is a request for moderation because, as I said, it's a reputation. So you have to keep a good balance. That's one element to give comfort to the business that this is what's going on, and you have the engagement. Then it's a matter of opening channels and explaining and training to people that these are the type of insight you can have from the conversations, and this is what we're going to share. So some of these, they need to be established in advance with certain objectives and then on an ongoing basis, because we human beings, we surprise ourselves how we behave, how we react, what we like, etc.
Okay. Thank you. Fabienne Fourquet, peut-être Mazza parlait de l'information.
You talked about information from Mazza, Fabienne, Fourquet. Do you have any experience on the video ratings meter? Then can you tell us about your Facebook application at Canal Plus? Is this something that is working for you on programs which apparently seem to be more than sort of major event or tele-reality focused? I'd like to pick up on what Maya said on the fact that people today on social networks didn't ask to speak; they just speak spontaneously and express their views. And this is something we're seeing since Facebook began. We realize that people today very early then start, commenting on our programs. The thing is, should we let everyone express their views without us, or should we try and interact with those people who express their views? So we realized that there was some accounts such as Koja that has now been created. So the question is how we can use that feedback, leverage that feedback, and how, editorially speaking, we can offer them more, contribute more than we could otherwise do linearly. And that's something that I think has real merit and benefit and has contributed to our success. We have 15 million fans, 50% then regularly check their page and so on. So what will our page animation strategy be? That's a valid question in the morning, where they post then guests, quizzes, they question internet users during the programs, which can really boost that engagement, or to bring out the best then rankings in terms of content or reactions to certain content on football matches, where we will organize forecasting the result and the outcome of football games and so on. So to answer your question on interaction here, then as depending on the type of program, well, here everyone knows that people have reacted a lot this year to realty shows, TV realty shows, as in the US. So we also know that with the presidential elections, there was a real craze for then on Twitter for that, and for e-tele, and on e-tele, on fact-checking on the elections, on the rollout of the elections and election campaigns. So whenever there was a presidential then candidate standing, internet users could use their smileys and tell us whether they agreed, partly agreed, didn't agree on the candidate's own pitch or stance. So with videos now, you could see a video then mini screen or part of a screen where they could go up or down and retrieve then information on the candidate, saying that the French found those points interesting, or those particular platforms or candidate platforms interesting, and so on. So that was the degree of interaction that we were able to provide to gauge people's reactions. That is true interactivity then on TV realty, just like a fact checking. On TV reality TV, then that worked extremely well, and we realized actually that on these series there was a lot of commitment, a lot of engagement. Then on Working Girl, which is a light-hearted TV series on young women at the workplace. So we created an account called Sophie, then, which is a very, very amusing and a very fun then series where Sophie or the Sophies can express their views via tweets, and that gives them a lot of interactivity. And then we have one of the Sophies, one of the actresses, who live tweets during the episode on her own then experience during the shoot, during the TV program shoot, joking with others. So that's a very congenial and fun and very positive, constructive environment with a lot of engagement, with lots of all these tweets. Then as a two, then that then is extremely useful and constructive from those points of view. So they want information, they want engagement, they want to communicate with their friends, play with their friends, whatever the program for that matter. So the lean back experience maybe now is far less prevalent and prominent as it was, than to check and if it's a real story, they want to react and become very much involved in that. So that is true engagement that is spreading on all our screens today. In the US, major events, HBO, ABC today can now also replicate and take over and really leverage this on Twitter. Versus your different devices, you're very strongly present on Facebook. Do you think, are you thinking about developing these devices then that would aggregate tweet additional content at Canal Plus? Then, or are you going to hide that behind existing networks? A bit like The Voice, actually. As our colleague said a moment ago, we are on all social networks, on Facebook and Twitter, with our different official narratives. We have a Skygram. We have a Skygram at the moment where you can post photos, then in the sidelines, in the wings, such as at Cannes, and we organised quizzes. So we, Google Plus as well as an app which we now offer with more news content. So that's the register we're now communicating on. Our approach is not platform-based, it's program-based. Then, as I said earlier, each program, each TV series, each program, then we will ask the question editorially, what's the content that people want or expect in real time after the program, and how we can offer that then by working upstream with the editorial teams or the production teams, units, to create an experience that is enriching. And we're testing this. Then we tested this at the Caesars, during the Caesar, then award ceremony, forecasting the winners or projecting the winners, who the winners would be, and so on. And then with a top twit list offering inducements, then the funniest, so that would reward the funniest twit. And this is something we're doing in real time with additional editorial content as an app, as an application, exactly on the site, with lots of information on the presenters who won a Caesar in 1994, 2004, and so on. So then with information on Caesar winners, Caesar Trophy award winners. So those twits are fed up, then that have the major impact, and we will then moderate and make some judgment there then on that overall experience. So we feel that's very relevant to the Caesars, to celebrities, to the world of celebrities. Then the Caesars award ceremony is an annual event, of course, that some people might want to watch again or go back to. Then, you know, there are some maybe parts of that award ceremony which may have more interest or derive or generate more interest at certain times than at others as well. So the idea is to take a position on a program, on a category, on how we can create added editorial value. Then through social animation, to create that interaction and engagement with the authors, with the production teams, with the live twit teams as well. Then to make that a special event, a high impact special event with games, more gaming, and so on. More interactivity, and to think about all those different areas together, then to see what we want to create and how we can leverage that experience. Then this is not a platform, it is a program focused or centered strategy or approach that we are following and applying here. let me cut you off for a moment. We have to pick up Lionel. Nico has become our Twitter friend here. Then that's just a sort of an additional contribution. I'll let you carry on. I'd like Fabienne on interactivity specifically here with Stéphane Gaultier from Virdual, then of which you are a co-founder, and you're developing then devices, innovative mechanisms here. We are talking about immersing the public, and you'll explain to us what that means versus traditional social media. Can you pitch Virdual here and say a word about your own Zavastar, the Zavastars. Virtual, it means virtual and duality. It's a contraction of the two terms. Previously, we were in the virtual world. Kidnap for Kids was created in 2007. That's a free real time where we then worked with a consultancy that really opened our eyes, certainly, on the 8 to 14-year-olds, kids, then who could surf on the internet on their consoles, games consoles, on their then on their computers while watching kids programs, youth programs. There is a youth program, and if that's the target, and if we're right on that target, we should. The idea was to let them surf, and then we said. We asked, did they go to that website where the program had been broadcast? So only a small percentage had during the airtime. So in other words, broadcast time. So at the moment, the context is that, and the world today is that screen, which could be a tablet or computer or phone screen, will draw the attention of the viewer. Then, as we realized 4 years ago, our figures show that the multicasting is very much with us. And on the second screen, they are mainly disconnected from what the program initially proposed. So we have an experience today on those networks. We're offering something, and we realized that a Facebook page or a Twitter account will never let anyone to enter the program or project into the program. So virtual worlds need avatars. Social networks, if I give it a physical form, such as an avatar form, customizing this through photos, then on the avatar, in the avatar, that will be very different, that I could then provide, that avatar will enable me then to appear in the program. So I'm mixing up all the different tele-reality, reality TV, projecting into those screens as myself. So 2 years ago, we then created Zavastar, which is a TV game a couple of years back, then with different games, and the game takes place in a virtual world with a real presenter. Some candidates who are avatars, who come from the audience or the public, then from another real world, and those public are all people who play the games at home, and they will use the standard games that I will watch as a TV then viewer, and those games will roll out as on TV. Although I have a second screen, and therefore I can connect to the application in the program and enter the studio. In other words, as we've seen on The Voice, they will come in from the wings, from the sidelines, and they will come into the program just as the candidates who walk on stage from the wings, from the sidelines, and the avatar will then talk to the presenter at the end, especially when the candidates do a really good job on stage. So DHD in the Greater Paris metropolitan area, where we had an audience, a panel of users, and that program was recorded, and we broadcast it in a synchronized way, so that when you connect to the app, I was synchronized on the broadcast that was then taking place. 85% of people said it was that this was a live broadcast and it was great. So the fact that you were simultaneously experiencing the program on your tablet, even it was recorded, the people felt that it was a live a program, and if it was live, this had all the more impact then. As we saw with us, as the three previous speakers said, it's about engaging then TV viewers in an immersive way, then to get them into that world from within. to come in with their accounts to enable part of 10, 15, 20% of the audience then through that second screen to experience that program from within and to be fully involved in it. And the program or the panel, when we asked the panel on why they felt involved, they said because they felt they wanted to win. They wanted to win. They had the winner's instinct there. And immediately afterwards, they said what they were interested in was to challenge my mates, my pals. So with a mass audience in this type of broadcast where 80-85% of the audience with all the standard or conventional TV ingredients. I'm working then on other formats for a foreign TV channel at the moment. So these are keys to the standard type of gaming programs, but all TV viewers can play the game, be it on their tablet or on a TV screen. So the idea is to enable the audience of social networks to aggregate. These are then micro units or groups of 3, 4, 5 people who can challenge one another and self-challenge, or rather challenge the contenders, the other entrants in the competition, in the contest. This is social TV, of course, but you need television. So if you're going to offer there, I don't know, a program or a piece or form of entertainment, then in real time with the same individuals, you'll never tell my brother this is a VOD program and we're going to comment on it together. No, on your telephone, you're going to ask, the telephone user, well, what channel are you watching or following? So today this is now done on Twitter, and this is the type of usage they're developing. So the major merit for the TV channel here is this interaction and interactivity which is fitted in the channel environment. Twitter, Facebook, of course, are prerequisites, of course, but all this happens within the content of that program, TV program. So as a TV program, you can offer a hybrid vehicle. It would be media mass TV with an interactive multimedia then application to these broadcasters who ask for nothing more and who relish the fact if it's your brand on then on the air that is live because it's synchronized. This is communicating in a far more pinpointed way, targeted way. If you're an automotive brand, then you can then say, well, this is my brand, and this is and you can offer other types of then automotive brands too, or contribute those or import those. So then you can monetize on Twitter, on Facebook. None of the channels can guarantee that these media, once they're monetized, they can't tell you how much this will cost. It's monetizing the channel then that is not 100% monetized yet. So the environment, this is the environment that is now being developing then to enable producers to create their programs to be interpreted in a passive way and in a more active multi-screen way on the second screen to enable all those internet users connected watching the program to return to the TV program environment. So your feedback seems to suggest a very high involvement, absolutely, on the part of people who are highly active. So if you're not connecting to watch a program, it's a binary process. Either you're passive or actively involved on the same TV screen. You can see in your lounge a passive person, an active, interactive person, and all will live their own experience in an independent way. So this is a very enriching experience and process. We've worked on documentaries, magazines, where each individual or viewer then lives in his or her own separate independent world, be it on a tablet. The passive user will be just watching TV. The interactive person will be interacting with then the second screen, watching a documentary film, for example. Lionel Abbo on monetization that we haven't really started talking about, cross-media, then is this something that is going to change audiences, audience ratings, bringing them more to TV, changing them into web users, a web audience, then in terms of monetization?
Well, indeed, we have several approaches today. We are considering various ideas from our producer perspectives. I have the feeling that we're rather considering the idea of working on brand content, which means that we need to get a new player involved, this new player being the advertiser. I'm not mentioning all the go-betweens, but we saw with the project Master Chef for 3 years, we have been offering with this project cooking recipe, and the ad was financed by Elle et Vire, and this was a way of putting on the stage those very famous cooks and participants, and having them cooking with some Elle et Vire ingredients from this brand. So we had then another project with a web series entitled Baby Boom for 1 year, and this was made possible thanks to Pampers, this brand that brought in a very strong involvement and audience to this. So we considered this TV program as a genuine brand carrying specific values. So our programs are carrying very strong values, and our advertisers can then identify with those programs and be highly motivated for taking part in this project. Fake with TV is, of course, another topic, but we see that there is a genuine difficulty, which is the amount of players, parties involved, and the copyright. Who owns the copyrights? This is really an issue today, raising a very intensive debate between broadcast channels. Earlier on, we talked about this issue. Secret Story, is it ownership of Endemol or TF1, the channel? You have nowadays many viewers, and what is the reason for this high amount of viewers? Is it the channel brand? Okay, we could consider a producer developing applications with specific contents and then opening the broadcasting to the channel. Well, this might be an option, but I think that it is in everyone's interest to be working on its own business and trade, which means that that it is in our interest to be the producers, to play our role as a producer, but we do not want to edit content. We don't want to circulate or broadcast content. I think that the channels have to take on this part of the work. I think that each player has to bring in its own expertise and know-how so that we can avoid potential conflicts and any possible kinds of problems. Of course, this works when you're only working in a team with 2 persons, with 1 broadcaster and a producer. If you involve other parties, it's getting more difficult. As regards the new players, the new actors, and the second screen applications that are user-centered and not content-centric, I'm thinking of e-box in Great Britain from Sky, and you've been working together with them, with Sky. Are these destructive solutions, or are these solutions with which channels and producers should start working together?
Sky with Z-Box element, but nonetheless, it is a fascinating process there. It was mentioned, I mean, for me, it's basically whoever paid for it owns it. Is it close? Okay, whoever pays for it basically owns it, the content. But it doesn't mean that you can suggest in order to increase engagement and being on different platforms. If I may take a step back, one of the reasons that the 2-screen concept has become popular is because it's irrelevant of the content rights. of the image rights. Simply, you can interact with any content you want on your device, but the person who owns it is a TV channel. And that's why the method has become popular and everybody talks about it. It is going to take many steps for the discussion of, who owns it, etc. But for now, that is the way, and I find it extra exciting because I think collaboration is key. But knowing that the image rights and the content rights is on the TV side and how you can increase engagement, for now it seems to be a successful approach. I don't know if I mentioned before, but I worked for Ogilvy in the UK. I used to run social for Ogilvy, so I'm lucky to have my advertising hat on and also the social engagement. If you go to, and I'm generalizing now, if you go to sales and acquisition or marketing, they want to push content, push product and sponsorship to the fans because they go, this is the engagement, let's go for it. So from a social media, your job is kind of like trying, testing, and see how people respond. But to have a very soft sell approach towards the fans, it is not a banner. People wouldn't like that, and you would see the engagement decreasing right away. It was mentioned where you put content, images people like, you can ask them what they like, etc. That is definitely the right approach, and it's a matter of amplifying it. Then you have all this engagement and you have the platforms, and I guess that's what I've been working on recently, is that is, in a way, your property. These are fans who do like your TV show, who do like your content, etc., and they come to you. Then it would be a matter of working together and see how you can monetize this on a very soft selling type of view. If you have a TV show, for example, about about cars, what does that mean to car companies? Because you're the owner of that channel, you know how many people, gender, age, what they're talking about, and sometimes the channel owners, the content owners forget about that data is of value. That is a property that can be discussed and can be negotiated in a contract at the beginning. A lot of the TV companies, they have partnerships, sponsorships, and so on. So now you're basically looking at how can you create a mini universe with all these guys around you in order to not only expand the engagement. All these guys are working on their own social engagement and so on. You're tapping into it. And it's a matter of reaching out and making these relationships equal to some sort of a monetization, whether you're asking for money, whether you're saying, well, I'm looking at, for example, advertising across a number of platforms. I want to brand the mobile app, etc. Why not looking at the social channels? As long as you obviously follow the norms and the rules of Facebooks and Twitters and the way they advertise. But I think this should be considered. But this only comes if you have a high level of engagement and a collaborative approach, and not going, hard in from a selling point, like some of my ex-colleagues or some people that you work with. It's an immediate dollar sign. So I think there is room, absolutely. I think there's plenty of room simply because people are coming to you and engaging with you. Just to give you an example, and I know we're talking about social TV, just another element. I'm a huge fan of Air Asia when it comes to social media approach. It's an airline. Have a look at their Facebook page, and if you do believe their CEO, they have a very highly engaging Facebook page. It's fun, it's content, but they also have deals. They also have monetization elements, and they're saying they're actually making money out of it. It was soft, they tried it, they're learning what is working for that specific brand. So coming back to what I said, insight is really key. I think it's important to be considered. That's one. Two, it's important to look at these properties as something that can be monetized and it can be integrated into the partnerships.
Merci. Fabienne Fourquet, peut-être?
Thank you very much. Fabienne Fourquet, would you comment on the potential partnerships with other players? Is that an option considered by Canal Plus, for example, TV check applications for programs that are not that strong? Well, right now, I don't think we have an equivalent to the box in France in terms of the amount of viewers, users, and involvement quality, also quality of the platform. In our channel, we try to find the content proposal that will really have a genuine value. We are looking for a second screen offering also, and then we're going to look at the broadcast or circulation concept, like moving and getting to the places where the people already are and then distribute the content. First of all, we say that we're not ready for a social network, buzzing aggregations and so on. Those approaches will bring some added value to us, but we want to move further, to move to a further step and to have a genuine content proposal in order to then possibly consider further developments. As regards monetization, does ad in sync constitute an option to you? You have a set-top box, you had this application 360 for the Caesar, and might this be an option for monetizing? I do very much agree with what was earlier said, that we need some soft approach, that we're still testing the approach we have, of course, in ad that is selling the broadband on the website so that we can fund some content projects and fund the website. But on the side of social networks, we see a very strong user capital and a very strong involvement. We try to keep this audience and to get them satisfied with what they get from us. This is, for example, watching specific episodes or some special guests. We do not want to post ads everywhere at any corner of a content. We had a partnership with Renault and decided to start some specific content, sponsored content related to music, to some non-mainstream offerings, and this was very much advertised on our website and circulated over the social networks. We had not only, therefore, an advertising, but also a content that was circulating throughout the social networks, which opens the way for new measures, for new involvement, and also may raise the interest of advertisers who would like to link those offerings on their websites. Anyway, we're still testing those options, and we want to test the involvement, the implication, and later on possibly consider ad opportunities. You mentioned measures, and what are the tools that you're using at Shine in order to measure the social buzz and the social success of your programs? Isn't there a lack in standards? Isn't there a need for a common standard enabling the various players to share their experiences? I fully agree with what you said. We need an index, a measuring tool from Médiamétrie or something else. We saw that the figures, the amounts of tweets, and were really strongly varying from one source to the other one. According to the H tags you take into account, according to the source, and so on, you get a totally different figure. So nowadays, we think that this has a strong value for the channel. To us, as such, it is only a tool in order to assess the impact of our discussions. As I said, this is vital for the channel, and nowadays I get several proposals like technological solutions that offer a U-turn and really new concepts in order to get the genuine, true figure. Interestingly enough, today I observe that we have no perfect technology in order to assess this nowadays. We need the human factor in order to analyze, which is rather to be expected because we're talking about measuring discussions. So the positive or negative reaction, the relevance of this or that reaction has to be measured via human intervention. This implies, for this we need a specific company with the related know-how, with the content know-how and expertise. This is not available today. I, as a person, if I want to draw a comparison between the social echo of the voice and then compare it to the echo of another program, I cannot find a solution for that. Would you like to react on this, Mazia? I saw you're nicking on this issue. Would you like to react on this?
The insight aspect of it is been discussed so many times. You know, what does that mean, and the measurements and so on. I'm generalizing now, and I'm being biased because my line of work is social media. So, you know, it might be slightly easier with TV because you go push, and we expect so many, and there is no feedback from the audience. You put something on newspaper or magazine, it's push and circulation, that many, and job done. The challenge with social media is that you're working with people, and people are different. People have different expectations. And I think that's one of the reasons technology hasn't been able to answer that question. You have services which give you some sort of an influencer stats. It is always questionable, and it has to be taken with a pinch of salt because there is a machine saying yay or nay or number. So I fully agree. There's got to be a human being involved. But different businesses has different objectives from social media. I mean, from a content, it might be that the only thing that is important to me is to make this content stickier, better, and an engagement going up. From a TV station, I'm not saying that is the case, but as an example, but from the TV station, they might have different needs from this content. It might go to the customer support if they do have online players, which you have to pay for, or a dish or satellite dish. And all these people who are engaging with your content can be your prospects. So suddenly within a business, in addition to the content, you have different needs from the social media engagement and so on. A lot of the large organizations, and this was the experience from Sky as well, you have all these people who are engaging with you. So from a whole business, how can you turn a person who's engaging with your TV show into a customer, somebody who actually pays for that dish? Now, the objectives from the content is like fun, engaging, top trend, get people, you know, liking Instagram and Pinterest, everything like that. But let's say in this business, if you're in the customer support, if you're in sales and acquisition, and you would like to get more people to buy your services, is a completely different objective. So I think that's why it makes it challenging to come up with a system can answer that. Okay, this has been my experience, and I think a lot of companies are actually trying to see the investment that they've done in content. You talked about monetization. What are the other areas that you come in? And that's exactly it, which means different objectives and different ways people want to measure, and that's why it's kind of difficult. Human involvement for sure, but it's also a business objective rather than just social media objective.
Merci. Pour rester peut-être sur les métriques et les problèmes de mesure.
Thank you very much. Further talking about measurements, and do you think that the added content that is posted on Facebook might redirect the streaming on to your website? We're very much interested in metrics and measurements. We have some video tracking and website tracking tools that are rather conventional but work very good. We would like to have some open devices for Facebook and Twitter, or we would also like to know which kind of factors had to be taken into account: the amount of fans, the hit rate, the comment rate. For Twitter, they have, among other factors, the amount of tweets, the topics, and the problem of influencers. Is that possible to have one single influencer per program? So obviously, we have a multiplicity of tools, but we're missing a common rule, a common approach, in order to be able to talk about this to people who are not dealing with that on a daily basis. We need figures in order to be able to compare data and to say this we had twice as more and this we had multiple results. As regards the quality of the tweet with regards to the positive or negative buzz, we see that data are difficult to compare. So advocacy and circulation of this concept of involvement is difficult. From a practical point of view, we might have many players who develop tools. We have applications that are almost have reached the final version. I think that Facebook and Twitter should first of all validate the figures and say whether or not those are correct, whether or not the timing, the program, the age tags, and other factors taken into account for each program are accurate. In our program Grand Journal, we very often have guests who are not taken into account in the figures of the social buzz for this same program. So having a human intervention or having the intervention of a body that might take this specific factor into account would be a very positive asset. Then let's imagine Twitter or Facebook might quote using some specific guidelines for measurements. This might help us having some reliable figures. We nowadays have some figures that are, we have a too great variation in the figures nowadays. Stéphane Gaultier, I heard you earlier on at a previous conference telling about the threat of platforms, the fact that platforms are threatening the channels themselves. Of course, there is a danger for the TV channels that they might lose the ownership of their audience and that this ownership might be called back by the platforms. We, as you said earlier, it's not sure whether or not the Facebook site is owned by Facebook or Endemol. I think this situation is clear. The ownership, Facebook has the ownership, and this is the danger. Second danger that I'd like to mention. I was smiling when I listened to the problem that we have no appropriate tools in order to analyze people's behavior on the internet. I think recently a French company made a strong event talking about Libya, and I think that such tools are already existing. Maybe they are not on the market for such users, but I think that they are already in use for other topics. We are talking about TV, but if you move towards other fields, then you know that observing, spying on what people write on social networks is already put into practice. Bruno is telling me that we need to move on to questions from the audience. This is probably very interesting because we have many prominent professionals in the room and they have interesting views to share. Thank you, Romain. Romain, you're doing this for free because you're so nice. I'm Romain from Clickers. Coming back to this measurement questions, I think that this issue is vital for monetization, which is in turn vital in order to assure a genuine will of moving further. I think that in France we've got an example of Mesagraph, which is a society, a company that works very well and is carrying out a really quality work. I think that it might be interesting to producers and channels if it was used by most of them and become therefore a point of reference. Therefore, you might use it in order to circulate and broadcast your content. I'm not, I have no share in this company, I have to mention it. I think the main point is about agreeing on a common standard, and then you've got your point of reference. It is an algorithm. We have no human intervention, which is, in my view, the vital aspect of this, that we have one system taking into account the same bias and a way that we can compare the data. So this is a very commonly used element in order to compare data and measurements. Thank you very much. Any comments on this or reactions? Thank you very much.
Juste par rapport à ça, je suis d'accord.
Reacting on that, I agree on the fact that, yes, we should, of course, get a main large General Assembly gathering channels, broadcasters and producers in order to agree on the validated standard and validated measurements. Regarding the system you propose, the algorithm, my experience has shown that this is not enough. This is not sufficient. Several factors are not taken into account by this system. For the voice, for example, we had the first tweet was a crocodile due to a reference to another joke. And if I don't know this, I cannot make the link between crocodile and the voice. If I know that, I can then take this hashtag into account because it is related to my program, of course. And this is why this hashtag tool is really interesting. It is a semantic tool, and therefore we need human intervention. Okay, maybe he can introduce you, and then you'll see whether or not you can work together. Do we have other questions from the audience? Yes? My name is Annick Revas. I'm a journalist. I'd like to know if whether or not you've been discussing at TF1 and Canal Plus together with Facebook or Twitter in order to share the monetization, or is that a truly non-realistic idea, this sharing of monetization? We have had no discussion on this with neither with Facebook nor with Twitter. Currently, we're leading very technical discussions related to the integration into their platforms that are changing very fast and that have become some support for circulation at a very large scale. So we need to understand the way they work in order to understand their content circulation strategy. Today we see that they seem to be rather open to media channels. We do not look, we're not looking at direct monetization. So no, we've not discussed this revenue sharing option. Reacting to Annick's question, we see that in the United States there is a company that distributes pay-per-view video-on-demand movies over Facebook. Is that something that you can consider, making pay-per-view video-on-demand via Facebook? Okay, this is not my topic. I work in another area, but I've heard that TF1 also started a television video-on-demand service via Facebook, and this is a very small market segment, which is not really relevant or important today. Considering the technical costs, this is not an option to us. And is there any other question from the audience? Patrice Lubowski from Orange and TV Czech. I'd like to ask people about their forecasts for the future. We are all trying to test on those topics. When do you think that the market is going to be mature, that this topic will be done in 2015, 2030? I will add a further precision when I talk about mature topic. I mean that we will leave today's situation where small TV channels are leading projects because social TV represents a considerable audience share, but then for broader events, and I really welcome the work you've carried out on the 360 or the Caesar application. In spite of the fact that social TV remains a marginal relative audience share, When do you think that this is going to get to become a more common aspect that might be of importance for your forecast? Well, I think when people are getting older. First of all, social TV today, we have to face it, is related to a rather young audience. My mother does not use Twitter, and if she does so one day, I think this should mean that social TV has been incorporated totally into society. Social TV is nowadays a communication tool for channels, for broadcasters. It is a communication tool for the main channels, but it has not become a tool for monetization yet, and this should take a long time until it becomes such a tool. Of course, I agree on what you said. The Facebook secret story website is owned by Facebook, and there is no other option considering today's situation. I think that nowadays, or that for now, Facebook and Twitter do not intend to monetize anything, to share monetization. So target audience is rather young, and accepted some events. We see that a few programs, the most tweeted programs are secret stories and other programs who target rather people aged 15 to 24. We also see on Canal Plus your Grand Journal, your very famous program. But apart from this, this hasn't become a common practice.
I have. I'd just like to add to that reply. We began with Abasta 3 years ago, and since then we've been trying to convince the TV channels on its merits. Since January, we've seen a real development in the audiovisual world, in which one of the psychological blocks we've had, where all the channel then staff, the actors have been trained up so that their programs can leave viewers in that main window. And culturally, this was very, very tough for them, that there could be a second screen or window. And since January, the figures have been striking. Multitasking is not 10, 20%, it's 50, 60% of the viewers, users who are now multitasking. Then that's 80% then are now using a second screen while they're watching a TV program. So this is becoming a mass audience phenomenon. And since January, we've been seeing that there is a real vamp up then in this application or functionality since the autumn. Then on French channels, but on foreign channels certainly, we felt that there has been a major switch. Then the paradox here is that it's one thing to train the audience. They already have their habits and their practices. Then I'm talking about the programs, that this understanding that they could write these programs differently and that they could then view programs, not only passive viewers, but active viewers can. And we're feeling the switch now. The real turnaround is now happening. We have a question in English there, please.
I'm planning international YouTube campaigns, especially right now for Mercedes-Benz. The interesting part for me is that we are discussing about TV and that most of the agencies I know and broadcasting stations creating their own web pages to screen their content. For me, honestly, and the customers I work with, I think YouTube is the only player you can analyze, and that's, for me, really important for social media. What is your position to that channel? I mean, nobody really is hosting their content there, but I think that's right now the best position for social media, I think.
Can I have a go at that? For a while, I was a huge advocate of, when I was involved at Sky, to release more content on the FB pages. when you consider a huge amount of money, as I was told very bluntly in a meeting, that they spend on TV rights, image rights, let's say Sky Sports pretty much owns football in the UK. And for that to sit on a different platform and not being able to monetize that is a big task, and it requires a long way, and I'm talking about years before anything will come. I am a fan of looking at, then Facebook itself allowed Facebook login, where you bring your identity from Facebook to a page that you have. And I'm going to come back to YouTube. I appreciate that was a question. But what I do like about Facebook is that it matured. It understood brands need data. They need access to that from a marketing, from registration, from upsell. And that's why, in my opinion, Facebook has become even more successful in getting brands involved. YouTube has been a trial platform where people release some content and see what's coming back. I know we've recently seen with movies, and then it's paid or some of them are free, people looking at how they're going to monetize it, etc. I don't mean to digress, but I think it's a long way to go to look at that as a pure platform, but I would look at it as a trial platform for a specific audience and see how people are reacting and so on, and or teasers. But I think what you're saying is a really tough sell, at least in my experience, to go to a broadcast and say, look at that, simply because YouTube, in addition to insight, it doesn't share much with you. It's not Facebook where you get data, at least, where you can say, look, 900 million are on it. I can access the people, their age, their email addresses, their interests. And if you, for example, somebody from Facebook Connect, comes to your site and it happens to talk about movies, and if you like that, on Facebook in your interest area, when you have your mouse over, you click on it, other people will see that it's from that destination page or landing page. So it's been able to play with the broadcaster and brands. And other channels, I think, if they do that, then they become more successful, where there is play with the branded site and also the Facebook page or the YouTube page or the social channel.
That's right. I mean, for me, it's the best, for example, when I represent the things I published on YouTube for Mercedes-Benz, I can exactly say since January 2012 what's the age, what he was looking for, how he found me, which page rank he has, everything. I'm really honest, you know. I think 5 years back when we producing like TV spots with a white horse running over the Sahara and a Mercedes was driving through it. I mean, nobody could say, is it successful or not? It was just published, like you say, in the push media, in the TV stations. But right now, I can exactly say, no, this video failed. And because just people watching it from 12 to 20 and not from 40 to 50. And I'm so surprised always in Europe that people not using that for TV stations. Like, I mean, for example, the best example is Games of Thrones with 200 million people. They didn't publish their episode there, but they published all the time like trailers, teasers, and special interest things. And when they clicked on that, people just watched it in YouTube or Google, and then they had the link to the next episode. I'm really surprised about that. The TV stations are using that.
I think YouTube, je pense que YouTube comme
YouTube as a marketing platform has merit and benefit, because all the internet users who watch video on it will look at YouTube videos, but for a broadcaster of a premium content broadcaster is a proposition that is well worth looking at, because it began with piracy, looking for different media to then prevent that, technical then resources to prevent that. We've no control at the moment. When I say we, I mean TV channels who have content, which cost a lot, of course, to produce. We don't have a control over the graphic visual environment on monetization, nor do we have control on then video trailers. You like it, I'm going to send you to Gosse Corti from CBW. We don't have control over that. And finally, if we really want to enter that environment, we're going to have to then spend quite a lot of money. than on the premium content. So in France, if you're on YouTube and you're looking for, I don't know, news headlines or the latest news, then even with the best videos in the world, I'm not sure that will enable you to get a top result. You're going to have to buy advertising campaign, then information or data. But as a marketing platform, as HBO does, and many TV stations already do, through teasers, additional accounts, and so on, well, as this is a platform then for internet video, then that seems to be a fairly obvious choice, I would suggest. If I can add a point, then on video usage on the internet. I don't know whether this was mentioned this morning with figures. At the moment, we are 3.15 hours and 15 minutes per day per user then in using consuming these videos. When we can then compare this with the 4 hours and 47 minutes per day that we heard about earlier, 9 million TV sets were sold yesterday, 9 million television sets were, and 9 million TV sets were sold the previous year and the year before that. So today, those sales are booming. So I'm not saying then that on the internet that internet video is not doesn't have merit. I'm saying that there is still a market for linear TV. People who buy large TV sets or screens, it's to watch audiovisual programs, and often they have a second screen, and that enables them to engage in social television watching. So it will still be around. It's very present. The audience ratings are not falling. Maybe the second screen is causing people to be less concentrated or less focused than previously. But linear TV, that is conventional lounge TV, is there, and it's still around. It is not falling. It's not a declining market, especially on programs that are shorter, that maybe are used and watched very differently. The consumption patterns then are or may change. People are still staying with linear TV channels, VOD, or then programs on demand, would have still to be proven or demonstrated. Linear TV programs, I believe, are still going to be around. If I can comment here on then the Aspen YouTube market. Fabienne, you seem to have a channel that you're going to buy Direct Star and Direct Cui, and which the CSA in France is approving. So you have an e-motion strategy where your programs then programs is your channel then trying to promote these programs to capture a larger, more mass audience? That's my question, really. On those questions, I think everyone here has different strategies, be they large brands or smaller brands, large TV stations or smaller national, nationwide or more regional TV channels. In the US, IBC, CBS, for example, NBC, have different strategies. Our strategy is to do primary broadcasting, primary sales, to have full control over then advertising, and as a result of that, we will roll out our distribution then strategy. We are looking to leverage here then social networks, but at the same time our strategy is not to distribute then on these other platforms such as YouTube or eMotion, which are probably quite longer term or longer time content. Maybe if we started from scratch, maybe our strategy would be very different. There are some TV channels who obviously do not have platforms, don't want a then platform. They just have a YouTube platform and a Facebook platform alone. Maybe there's merit in that. I think it depends very much when you enter the business, then when you come into the market. I think that's what's key here. Lawrence maybe can answer that on behalf of to start. At the moment, we're not yet colleagues with Fabienne. Maybe we would become so if we have then authorization digital at the moment that then manages media, direct tweet and direct star media. We are in e-motion watch as well, YouTube. Then decision that we took then is to look for audiences where we can find them, where they exist. However small in terms of marketing resources or then goodwill or acclaim or reputation in terms of distribution on partner platforms with whom we are now working. Then generating more audience, higher audience ratings on different programs today. This has been successful. This format has been successful. These are short length program formats. From May, we have 44 million videos that have now been seen on Twitter and on these other media. So that gives you an idea on the number of videos actually viewed. You can check the figures. That's as many videos viewed as France Television offers on its platform. So these are small channels, but through emotion, and then YouTube enables us to very much then boost that business and those audiences. Then I'm director of Borough Digital. That was the gentleman speaking a moment ago. I have a question. Maybe we can then go and have lunch. Hello, Patrick here for Orange Mobile, responsible for special events apps. We talked about television here, sitting on a sofa in the lounge of one's home. Mobile. We've had here at the moment, a partnership with Roland Garros, the French Open tennis championships. Inaugurated social TV as well, Twitter, Facebook. So this is very encouraging based on the initial figures. I would certainly encourage anyone who's got anything to say on interactive mobile TV, social TV. Then on these screens, I've still got a few business cards that I'll be happy to hand out. So let's stay in touch. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a question. It was an offer to hand out business cards. Any other questions, please? Gilles, would you like to wrap up? Good question. Well, that does conclude this panel discussion. Thank you to all the panelists, the experts on stage. We're going to break for lunch now, and we'll be back at 2:30 for a discussion on smart TV and the second screen, which I'm sure will be a riveting panel discussion and workshop.